Hello boys and girls, welcome to John Robson Guitar Tuition. I do hope you're well. Last night I had the great pleasure of doing an interview with Alan Lohr, aka Buddhaman, on his radio station Kong, monsterrock.net. Alan, you're a true gentleman. Thank you for the interview. It was a pleasure. And in case you missed it, here it is.
This is the International Experience. We're going to go right into Musician's Corner at the top of the hour here. John Robson has played guitar since childhood, when he was seized by kidnappers and taken away to a 50s rock and roll diner. And he's been there ever since. And he's held captive there to play 50s rock and roll music. And he also has a big band jazz band, which they also kidnapped and brought over there to this 50s bar. I hope you know I'm kidding. Since the early 1890s, his musical career has seen him play in many bands. He was in vaudeville in the 1930s with the wonderful Al Jolson, and of course worked with the venerable Frank Sinatra. You talk about fake news, there you go. I can just do it right off the cuff, man. And it sounds real good. I'm really excited to talk to John today. And he has an album that's, it says here something about Jazz Project, but the one I want to know about is the Whisky one. There's a Whisky song here somewhere, and I'm looking for it. The Whisky Made Me Do It. Isn't that always the case? The Whisky made you do it. Anyway, we're going to be making that. We're going to be getting that call now while I do this. I don't want to bore you and just sit here and wait for somebody to call. He's going to call right at the top of the hour. And as soon as this... yeah, there we go. I'm going to make myself available to all the girls in the neighborhood. Okay, gals, I'm here. Come and get me. This is Musician's Corner at 3 o'clock today. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Did you listen to Echoes of Rock and Roll this week? Man, it was good. It had all kinds of songs about California. There are quite a few. You know, I host a show and I found so many beautiful songs, especially one that stuck in my head called California Man. Okay, there's John, and we're just going to get the hell off this right there and answer this and say hello. Hello, John. Hello, John. Let me mic you. Let me turn your mic up. Hey, there you are. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you very much. Just sat here watching a bit of TV.
Oh, yeah. I went on the air at 2 o'clock today, so I was talking about you on the air so we could gather an audience. We're also on my radio station. Surprise!
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
man. It's a good thing, brother. I would like to introduce musician John Robson from Redcar in the UK to Musician's Corner today here. It's 3 o'clock here, and am I correct, John? It's 11 p.m. over there?
It is indeed. It is indeed.
Good.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure. John has made a new release called The Whisky Made Me Do It. And I'll tell you what, I'm 27 years sober, but before I got sober, John, the whiskey made me do it.
Everything in moderation.
Yeah, everything in moderation. Absolutely, I agree with you on that. So tell me a little about where you live, Redcar. Where is that near?
Oh, probably the nearest big city is Newcastle. Basically, if you're looking at a map of this part of the world, then just kind of turn left at Denmark. Basically, that's where you'll find us.
Oh, yeah.
It's a... Sorry?
That's great. Turn right at Denmark.
Yeah, turn left.
Turn left.
Yeah.
And then make a right at the stop sign, and then you'll be there.
Yeah. It's just a little kind of old Victorian resort town on the seaside. We used to have a steelworks here, but that's recently closed down. It's had some tough times, but we'll pull through.
You know, I was looking at your website, and I was very interested in a lot of the things you were talking about in your blog about guitars.
Oh, yes.
about guitars and the difference in in guitars. And tell our audience, when you first started playing guitar, what was the first guitar that you picked up and played, John?
The very first one was a Woolworth's Top 20.
Really?
Made of the finest plywood money could buy.
I think I remember those. Were those sold at Woolworth's stores?
They were indeed, yes.
Oh,
yep.
I think I might have had one of those when I was a kid, because we lived about 3 blocks from Woolworths, and when I was a little kid, they had stuff for the 5 and dime, and I'd go in there, and I think I actually had a ukulele made out of plywood from Woolworths.
Yep.
I couldn't play it, but it was fun. So you have this amazing thoughts that I was looking on Facebook about. If I could find here, let me find it. What you say on your Facebook page is, I love this. Dream, aspire, succeed, and help. And that's from Dash into Greatness. Is that a song you wrote recently? Is that one of your older pieces?
That's not one of my songs.
Oh. So tell me how you came up with those things. Dash. That's beautiful, man. How did you come up with that?
That's not one of my songs. That's nothing to do with me, I'm afraid.
Oh. I'm on Facebook. Are you on Facebook?
I'm not on Facebook.
Oh. Did you know there's another John Robson? Well, the 4 things I just said are pretty good, huh?
Yeah, I'll go along with all of that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about the album. Is that a whole album or just a song, The Whiskey Made Me Do It? Is that a bunch of songs?
I just write and record music all the time. It's just something I don't know how to stop doing it, really.
Yeah.
And the Whiskey Made Me Do It, the title track was, I just bought a new guitar, and there was a little bit of whiskey left in the in the bottle from Christmas, and I just decided to finish it off and play my new guitar, and that just kind of came out. And that was I was struggling for a title for it for ages, for weeks with cliche stuff like highly strung or string it up, all the kind of guitar puns, and then I just thought, the whiskey made me do it. So that was the title.
So when you started playing guitar, how old were you, and what was the first piece of music that you actually sat down and played?
I was 11 years old, I think, and I think it was Apache by the Shadows.
Oh, good song. And did you have a music?
Yeah, great stuff.
Did you have a music teacher, or were you like naturally gifted at this sort of thing?
The music teacher at my school was kind of, he's only just fresh out of university, so there wasn't a big age gap there between us, and he was into a lot of the same music that I was into, and I don't know, just hanging around in the music room on a lunchtime was kind of the cool place to be, and there were lots of, all the cool guys played guitar, and I just wanted to be part of that crowd, so that's how I kind of got into it, really.
Yeah, that's cool. And were you in bands, or like school bands, or?
Oh yeah. I was. You see, I'm quite a tall guy, and I always have been. So when I was kind of 14, I could pass for 16 and get into pubs.
Oh, cool.
And, the music teacher at our school, he actually recruited me into being the guitar player in his band, to go out and play. It was like a kind of a weddings and bar mitzvahs and that kind of thing.
Cool.
But that was I think I was 14 when I first started doing that, and just kind of played in bands ever since, really.
Yeah, I noticed that you like 50s. You like 50s music. I love 50s. You like 50s music?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some? Who are? I know that music. I was born in 1955. So by the time I had a very musical family. My dad played sax. My mother played flute, and then I was given a clarinet. And, I listen to a lot of 50s music, and I listen to my dad. I listen to the likes of the Dorsey Brothers and Duke Ellington and Count Basie and, all those bands. And it just inspired me to hear those songs. Who were some of your idols from that era, from the 50s?
Going back even further, I mean, my mother was an absolute Glenn Miller nut, and she had the Glenn Miller Story, the album, the LP, the vinyl.
Yeah.
And that was always on in the house. And then, she kind of, she had all the Bill Haley and the Comets stuff as well. And just all the usual suspects, really. Chuck Berry, obviously, because, I mean, that's where everyone learns to play the guitar, isn't it, frankly?
Yeah.
Just all the great stuff that came out in the 50s. There was just, excuse me, there was just, a warmth to it that I don't think has ever been recreated.
Yeah.
It's great, honest music.
Yeah, the music of the 50s, huh?
Yeah.
Some of the groups I can think of are the Platters. I just love them, man. And all those, I can just type oldies into my system. I have so many. Buddy Holly, of course. Chuck Berry. You can't go wrong there, huh? Chubby Checker. I remember when I was 7 years old, I had that album, The Twist. And of course, the king himself, Elvis Presley. I mean, where would we be without him? And Mary Wells, my guy. I loved all that Motown stuff, And I lived in Pacoima here in Los Angeles when I was growing up. And the school I went to was Pacoima Junior High, and there's a picture, Richie Valens, on the wall. He went to school there. Two planes the reason he was afraid of planes is because in 1957, I think it was, two planes collided over Pacoima Junior High's their football field, and his best friend was killed by one of the engines. He ran for the hills, so that's why he was afraid of airplanes. Right now, they dedicated many years ago a great program for people, guys in that neighborhood who want to get out of gangs and play basketball, and it's called the Richie Valens Recreation Center. So there's another guy who left a big mark on music, and also, his family keeps that alive too. That place is it's not funded. Yeah, if they had to rely on state and federal funding, they'd be way out of luck in the climate we have now. So
don't tell me about it.
Oh my God, you're lucky, man. Oh well, I don't know. The world seems to be changing so quickly. It's so different. Do you reflect that in the music that you write?
Not consciously,
No.
but I guess it's got to come out somehow or other. I mean, I seem to notice when the steel plant closed here, and there was a lot of despair in the town here. I noticed that every piece of music I was writing was either kind of angry or mournful, basically. So that I think it comes out one way or another. You can't stop it, really. But I think if you try and consciously sort of say, okay, today I'm going to write a piece of music about X, for me anyway, it just kind of comes out as being a bit contrived and, kind of forced. So it's just best to let it kind of come out, I think. Yeah,
organic, and just kind of comes to you.
Yeah,
Is that the way it's always been for you?
Pretty much, yeah. Usually it's just a case of I'll sit down with the guitar and just start fooling around, and then just odd little things kind of drop out of my fingers, as I like to put it. And I think, oh, that sounds good, I'm going to use that. And then it's kind of fire up the voice recorder on my phone just to kind of get it down and get it recorded so I don't forget it the next day, because the best ideas are always the ones that get away, aren't they? And then just into the studio. I've got a small home studio where I do everything, and then it's a case of just going and trying to make it live, with a proper arrangement. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you got to give it a go,
Yeah, because how would you know otherwise? right?
Yeah, it's just basically it's just usually fooling around and seeing what comes out.
Right.
So the other thing I tend to sometimes do is trying to play something, trying to write something on an instrument that I don't really know too well. Because if you like, my main instrument is the guitar, so if I kind of go to a keyboard, I can't really play it, but I kind of know the architecture of it. Then I'm not kind of falling into all the old familiar shapes and patterns and kind of riffs and licks that I'll tend to do on the guitar, so that can kind of force something new out of the fingers as well.
Yeah, are you able to sight read? Do you read music?
I do, but I used to be pretty slick at it, but it's not something I've had to do. Of late, I'm quite rusty. I will keep. I do have like a manuscript pad with all sorts of bits of ideas jotted down in there and stuff, but it's. You know that joke, how do you make the guitarist turn the volume down?
Yeah.
Put some music in front of them. That's kind of me.
And then something amazing happens, you know. So the piano, I have one here in back of me. It's actually from your part of the world. Someone gave it to us. So I tinkle around on it sometimes, but I'm a woodwind guy, man. I mean, B flat. If you play a B flat instrument for almost 30 years, and then you pick up a flute and try to read C. I just said, well, I'm just going to wing it. So I play a flute, recorder. I tried bassoon and oboe. Have you ever tried a bassoon or an oboe?
I haven't. I tried sax years ago. I mean, we're talking 30 years ago when I was at college. I tried a sax. Yeah. And no, it wasn't for me. It just seemed so kind of alien, really.
No, not. See, that's the thing. That's how I feel about guitars. I wish my mom gave me a choice when I was 6. She came in my room and she said, "Alan, you can either play flute or clarinet." So I was a little kid in the 60s. I thought flutes was for girls. So I picked the clarinet, and it didn't get me a lot of girlfriends in the beginning. But and then I tried to play a guitar. Somebody tried to teach me, but forget about it. But I did pick up a tenor sax, because my dad played tenor, so it wasn't that alien to me. And my brother played alto, so I grew up with like I said, a lot of that music that had like that's something I think is missing in a lot of music today is that organic sound, or putting horns in there. But I had a band. I just put it like Earth, Wind and Fire just played here in town, and I talked to somebody who went, and they got they got this beautiful horn section. That's really hard to find today in modern music. Is there any modern music? Is there any modern music like the indie music or anything that you care for that you've heard in the last, I don't know, decade?
There's a question.
I know, man.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I think you need the perspective of time, really, before you know what's good. I mean, the stuff I used to listen to 10, 15 years ago that I loved at the time, but I don't listen to anymore. I think you need to give something the chance to stand the test of time, but I'm guessing, let me think. I think there's a band called Chinese Lanterns who just really kind of hit the spot for me. Who else? Oh, there's a really cool guy. I don't know if you'll have got him over there, but a guy called Henry Priestman. If you check out his album called The Chronicles of Modern Life, it's nearly kind of, I think it came out around about 2010, but it's just beautifully observed lyrics, and the title of one of the songs is "I'm the same age that my father was when I first thought he was old." And it's a brilliant line.
Wow.
And just stuff like that. I like instrumental music myself, mainly because I can't do lyrics. I can't sing for toffee, and I can't write lyrics.
Same here.
But I do love to hear a well observed lyric, and Henry Priestman, The Chronicles of Modern Life, highly recommended.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, so what do you listen to?
What do I listen to? I listen to everything.
Yeah.
But my favorite kind of music, if I had to pick, is classical music, because that's what I started with. My teacher was when I was very young, his name is Peter Zukovsky. His daughter played in the Los Angeles Philharmonic first chair for 48 years. I mean, basically her whole life. And he taught me how to play clarinet. So I really love the sound of clarinet concertos. There's not that many. A few composers, Mozart, I think he wrote 3 of them, and Bizet wrote 1 or 2, and I listen to a lot of classical, but I also love the psychedelic era of the 60s all the way into 72. And then I got into progressive music. I actually was really into it, and I did a show on LA radio called The International Experience. And I love all those bands like Genesis and Yes, and all those great bands that Golden Earring. I mean, all those great bands. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, one of my all-time favorites. I had the pleasure of having Keith Emerson sit right with me right here. It was the last one. It was the last interview he ever did. A very, very gentle, humble, beautiful guy, I got to tell you. And it was a sad loss to the world. And I think about him all the time because, he was going to go around the world. And he was going to take his music, what he said, out of his closet. He'd written about 16 symphonies, maybe a bunch of concertos, and some other things. And he did it for a little while. He told me he went out and he bought a conductor's uniform, he called it, with the white tails and the whole thing. And he went, I think, to Belgium, and he did one of his piano concertos while he conducted. And he wanted to do that. And he said, going from hotel to hotel with a band, it's just like you get a little older and sometimes you just can't do it. So, he was going to do that. And I hope his beautiful wife, they lived in Santa Monica, she's probably, or people around them are making a movie from his book, Pictures of an Exhibitionist. So that should be, that's the name of the book if you ever want to pick up a good one, about how progressive music really grew in England and how it spread across Europe into the States, and how Emerson, Lake and Palmer were the flag bearers, the ones coming here with Yes, and those they waved the flag of progressive music at me, and I have never looked back. The reason for that, John, is because it is very simply put that progressive music is a lot like classical music. Sometimes it's very absurd. Sometimes it's very grandiose. And sometimes it's just so beautiful, and that's what I listen to. But I do have a varied taste, I'm since I run 4 radio stations, and one of my favorite bands is from your neck of the woods, Jethro Tull. Because
brilliant.
Brilliant. Yeah. Have you ever seen them live?
I haven't, to my shame. I haven't.
They were brilliant. Brilliant in their day. He tours solo most of the time. But in the 1970s, he was like this deer hunter up on stage with a flute in his hand. I mean, he was...
You should take a flute now.
Yeah, and how he said he got it? He said, I didn't play an instrument, and he walked into a music store in London, and he picked up a guitar, and he said, I already have one of these. And then he picked up a flute, and he said, I'm going to take this, and he took it home, and he taught himself how to play. Oh, man! You talk about pure genius right there.
That's just talent there, isn't it?
Well, you too, man. You got a lot of talent. So how long did it take you to record this new album, The Whisky Made Me Do It?
Kind of from about autumn last year. As I said, it occurred to me in about back end of February this year that I got enough material here to lump it all together and call it an album. But it's just I mean, I've got another tune on the go at the moment, which will probably end up on the next album. It's just I need a piece of music to be working on at any given time, and it's just a constant kind of process, and it's I churn them out like sausages. But yeah, I guess from about sort of September, October last year through to middle of February this year is what it took.
Have you performed live where you live over there or around the area?
No. There is absolutely no market for what I do live around here. The worst gig I ever did, I tell you about this, the worst gig I ever did, I played the second half to a dog. We played the first half, we played the first half to, there was a guy sat there, a little old fella, with his Newcastle brown ale and his dog asleep at his feet, and we came off after the first half, a bit dejected.
Yeah.
And by the time we went back on, he'd gone to play on the slot machine in the foyer and left the dog there, so we played the second half to the dog, and we just saw the absolute absurdity of it at the time. We just couldn't get through it without laughing. We just treated it as a free rehearsal, but that is kind of a little bit what it's like around here.
Yeah, I do. I hear it a lot, because being a solo recording artist is difficult. But your music is great, man. I mean, just listening to it, somebody said on over here on the SoundCloud edit that reminded him of a 70s prog rock. You see,
thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody said that, and it says here, yes, we have to thank the Whisky for that. Somebody put that on there. You can find John at SoundCloud.com at John W. Robson. Is it Robson or Robson? Robson. So I had it right in the first place. This is Kong, MonsterRock.net, and Musician's Corner, and we're talking to John Robson, and he has a brand new album called The Whiskey Made Me Do It. I don't know what it was, but the it was for me is gone. No more of that, man. I live in California where marijuana is legal, so we'll just keep it at that. That doesn't get you in too much trouble. So tell me something, man. What do you find to be the most challenging part of what you do with the music?
Selling it.
Yeah, really, huh?
Making it is no problem, but it's a tough market out there, and it's just a case of I mean, selling the music isn't my full-time thing. I mean, what I do to kind of put food on the table is I teach guitar.
Right.
So the music is kind of, I treat it as if it earns me anything or whatever it does earn me, it's a bonus. But yeah, it's tough going trying to get it sold, especially when there's no real scene for kind of gigging original music around here. But we try. It's a case of, well, what else am I going to do?
Exactly. It's like me in radio. What the hell else am I going to do? I'm not going to get on the phone and try to sell you solar paneling. Fuck you! I'm eating dinner. I did it. I did a lot of things years ago.
Radio?
Yeah, I watched postal trucks. Oh, that was fun, and while hearing gunshots in the background in South Central LA. I'm never doing that again, man. I worked as a host in a restaurant. This is when I got sober. They said, Buddhaman, you can't go out and do radio again because that's where all the cocaine is. Oh. So I didn't do it for a long time, and I got back into it in 1999. An internet radio in somebody's garage in Van Nuys, California. Hey, what are you doing there, man? I hear water and all kinds of shit, man. You taking a shower during your interview? I would. Hey, man, tell me something. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum with the challenging part. The other end of the spectrum is, what is the most rewarding part of what you do with the music?
Okay, that has to be when you sit back and crank up the monitors and listen to the final mix of the tune for the first time, and you think, this little seed of an idea that kind of came into my head a week, a fortnight, a year ago, however long it was, and I just kind of, you work on it, craft it, and you hone it, and you kind of tweak it, and then you finally get it exactly how it needs to be, and you sit back and listen to it and think, I did good. that makes it all worthwhile.
Definitely. So on your homepage, on your website, you talk about the Teesside steel workers and their families. Why don't we put this out there? Tell me about that and what can be done about it, or what's going on with it.
Well, nothing can be done about it. The plant has closed. The fires are out. It's stood there derelict now, and we've been making steel on this site since the Industrial Revolution, kind of.
Wow.
200 years, something like that, and just a momentary drop in the world steel price made it briefly uneconomic to keep the place open, so it was closed down. And what happens when the steel price goes up, as it will, all those skills are gone for good, and it's just stood there like a big tombstone looming over the town now. It's tragic to look at.
I betcha.
There was you're probably referring to the charity single that I did for the steel workers, which there was an appeal set up for them. We've had very, very little money from central government, and it's an exercise in buck passing going on. I don't want to get into politics on this, but it is a real tragedy.
Yeah.
Just the contrast with the way that I always said, if it was, instead of a steel plant there, if it was a merchant bank, they would have found the money to keep that open.
Right.
Well, they did, didn't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening like that, or going to happen here in the United States. Like the national parks are in danger of being gentrified, and the climate is changing. Just the other day, I know you heard this, and this isn't even political, this is scientific. A giant piece of ice broke off in the Arctic Circle. I mean, we're talking, like they said, the size of Montana. This huge piece broke out. And they talked about how that will definitely change the climate as it starts to move and it starts to melt. So, it might take 100 years, it might take 2 weeks. The scientists just don't know, because, it's almost as if they don't have all that technology yet to find out exactly when this thing is going to melt completely. But that's what's happening all over. Yeah. And we have a great governor here, Governor Brown. He is very much into climate. I'll tell you what, I lived in Los Angeles all my life, man. And I used to go to work with my dad downtown. You couldn't even see the sky or the buildings on any day of the week. It was so smoggy. Since the proliferation of many different emissions laws and many things that the governor has done over the years, you can see the city in the day. I can understand why a lot of people in those days came down with emphysema, even if they didn't smoke, or cancer, because the smog was so thick in Los Angeles. It was, it was hard to breathe. But now you look at L.A., and I can see it. If I drive down to the beach to a friend of mine's house and you look over the horizon, there's a little bit, but not much, and that's a good thing. That's a real good thing. You should write a song about it. You know what I mean? Hey, speaking of songs, John, I want to play a song, but here on Kong as well, and Musicians Meeting, you'll be able to find this interview on the Spearman app and share it with anybody you want. Throw it out, throw it at Twitter and all the places you want to throw it at. And maybe would you put it on your website, the interview?
Absolutely.
I'll send you the HTML on that later on. Most people go, "What HTML? What's that?" I don't know. It's the language of the internet. So I tell everyone out there where they can find the music and download it and pay for it. Ladies and gentlemen, one of my things I want to say before we go and play the song, it's very, very unbelievably important, and from me being around in LA radio for a very long time, supporting independent bands is extremely important. So wherever you're at in the world, whatever you're doing, instead of going and paying, and you know that guy's going to play 4 nights, instead of going to the big shot who already has $10 million or $14 million on this tour so far, pick a club somewhere and go and see somebody you never thought you'd see. Because that's the way music is. I do that, John. I find an artist and I go. And I say, hey, you want to be on my show? And so, I'm always, and I have a guy in New Orleans. I got somebody up in Sweden and a couple other places, looking for bands and the local clubs. So let's talk about that, even if you don't play there. Are there local clubs in your area that with indie bands that people can go to?
There's not really. No.
No, my goodness.
The main music kind of scene around here is every band that's kind of playing live around here tonight, I would say, will have on their posters a tribute to or celebrating the music of.
Right.
Or, it's all kind of tribute acts and that kind of stuff. And if it's not that, it's kind of cheesy weddings bands, which, no shame in that. I've done that myself. It pays the rent. But as far as seeing, good live original music, Teesside really ain't it. You've got to go about 50 miles away to Newcastle or something like that. And it's a really good scene there, but unless you're local to there, it's kind of hard to break into.
Yeah. I talked to a few people in Newcastle. Yeah, I know there's some good venues there. Well, good luck to you, mate. It was really a pleasure talking to you, and thank you very much for putting that up on Twitter over there. I passed that around as well because I have listeners over the years. It's just kind of I didn't press it. I don't bought my Twitter. Some people go and they can buy. They're Twitters, and they're Twitter people, and they're just robots. They're just servers. And everything I have on, and I know you too, everything I have are real numbers and real people that I know, a lot of those people on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And that's the way that life should be, that we all know each other and connect some way because the world is changing and we're all human beings, and we realize that music is the thread that holds us all together. And I don't know what we'd do without it. Well, God bless you, man. I want to play a song here. But before that, why don't you tell everybody where they can find the music? If I asked that question before, I guess I'm doubling up so people who are listening, for someone who just tuned in. Shortest attention span.
All the usual places, basically. Just search John Robson on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Spotify. Yeah. All of the usual. You'll find me there.
All right, man. Well, pleasure talking to you. And stay on the line. I'm going to put it right on this on the app, so don't hang up. There'll be a little ID from a young lady at the very end, and I'll click out. And let me just set it up. Like the professional DJ that I am. This is Kong, monsterrock.net, and we're going to hear a great song here from John Robson from England, and it's The Whiskey Made Me Do It.